I just want to go through, I have a couple things I want to go through really quickly before we begin. First is this packet that you guys got when you walked in. First thing is, this is my business card. My name is Chelsea Watkins. My company name is College Application Training. The second page is a bio about me and about my history and how I got started in this business. The reason why you have the business card is I realized I just moved offices last week, and I realized after I copied everything that all the contact information on the bottom is my old contact information. So this is current. This is how you get a hold of me. I have some testimonials in here of students who have worked with me personally and also who have worked with my partner company, the College Planning Network. I will be talking about them a lot today. Let's see, then we have a notes page. This is anything you feel that's important, please write down. Anything that I feel is important, I will make a note of it, and so you can write that down as well. We have a paper in here that's called 10 Scam Warning Signs. Do we have any parents of juniors in here? Oh my, a lot. So you guys are starting to get a lot of mail from the colleges and brochures. And one thing to look out for is if you get something in the mail that no matter how official it sounds, it could be the National Association of this or the American Association of that, if it's telling you that you need to pay money to get financial aid or to get a scholarship, that's a scam and you want to throw it out right away. Now, it's perfectly acceptable to pay someone for coaching, to pay someone for positioning, to pay someone for financial planning. But anything that tells you that if you pay them, they will guarantee you a result, that you want to get rid of, and that should eliminate a lot of the junk mail. We also have these are financial aid award letters. Do we have anybody who has older children that has gone through the process before? Okay, one. So you may have seen something like this. These are the letters that you will receive from the university after you have your acceptances detailing what they're going to give you in terms of financial aid. If you could take out the Vanderbilt one and put it aside, we will be working with that one later today during the seminar. And then finally, we have what I call a golden ticket. This is our seminar evaluation form, and we do these seminars for the community. They're free, they're for you guys to come and learn about the process. But one thing that we do like to give back is we like to get an evaluation on our work. What you liked about it, what you didn't like about it. It's the only way that we can actually improve our process and better serve the community. Now, one of the things that we do offer is we do offer a free, no obligation consultation. Now, obviously, this is free. This is free for people who come to the seminars. I normally charge $150. If you didn't come to the seminar, you would have to pay that to do the consultation. Everything that I'm going to do today is sort of a broad-based general overview of the college financial aid process, and I'm going to do it in an hour. So, it is malpractice for me to sit up here and say, everybody should do this, everybody should do that. That's why we give this free consultation, is you can come to my offices, which are very near here. They're in the Howard Hughes Center. I'll sit down with you, an hour and a half. We'll go over your specific situation so that you can best get a look at what you're looking at in terms of financial aid or college funding or things like that. So, on the bottom of the sheet, there's some information to fill out if that's something that you'd like to take advantage of. Obviously, you don't have to. Nate didn't bring his gun today, so you're off the hook. Good? Okay. Well, I thank you guys all, again, very much for coming, taking time out of your Saturday morning. I have one more thing before you get started, is that, again, I'm going to try to do this whole thing in an hour. So all that I ask is if you could hold your questions until the end. The reason why you got those little yellow sticky notes, they're kind of floating around, is if you have any questions during the seminar, please just write them down, and I'll take a couple of minutes at the end to answer them. And I'll also be around afterwards cleaning up, and you can always answer them then. So just want to get that going. So let's get started. So I've done a ton of these seminars, and what we find is that our clients, when they come to, the parents are concerned about three big things. Number one, missing deadlines. Number two, making mistakes. And number three, not having the time to do everything involved. However, I'm sitting on the other side of the table. I'm seeing it from the other side of it. And we actually found that there's 3 other concerns that we want you to be aware of. And they are not developing a plan to pay for college, doing something that will hurt their child's chances for college admission, or doing something that will cause them to not get the most financial aid possible. So those are the 3 that I am going to focus on this morning. I am sure you are very well aware that college costs are skyrocketing. It's not just tuition anymore. It's tuition, room and board, meal plans, lab fees, living expenses, computer costs. There are so many extra costs these days that go into a college education. Travel expenses, if your son or daughter decides to go to University of Hawaii, I'm sure you're not going to want to go visit them. But every time you fly there. And what if they go to school at NYU and they live in the city? Well, then you have New York living expenses. So it's, if we're looking at, let's say, the least expensive state school, I'm not going to count California because California state schools are up to like $25,000, $26,000, $7,000. Let's say $20,000 per year for the least expensive state school. You go up to the private schools, they're going $50,000, $60,000 a year. So you're looking at roughly $80,000 to $200,000 for just one child. What if you have 2 kids? What if you have 3? My marketing coach has 5. I was like, buddy, you're screwed, sorry. But it's just an insane amount of money. And unfortunately, for the moment, it keeps on going up and up and up. It goes up by 7 to 8% every year. And everyone keeps going, oh, why does college keep getting more expensive? I'll give you a simple answer. You know why the colleges keep raising their prices? Anybody know?
Because they can.
Because they can. Because you will pay it. Because we have not yet reached the point where the cost of the college education outweighs the value that you're going to get out of it. So, law and supply and demand is very simple. They know they can keep raising the prices, and so they do. So how is a family supposed to come up with all this money? 5 ways to pay for college. First way is savings. Second is loans. 3 is scholarships. 4th is you can go to a cheaper school. 5, you could skip college altogether. That one we're not going to deal with because obviously you would not all be sitting here on a Saturday morning if you thought that. So let's start with the first one, savings. I am sure every single one of you in this room could take the $200,000 that's burning a hole in your checking account and write a check for college. Yes or yes? All kidding aside, if you do have savings, we highly recommend that you come and talk to somebody. Here's why. Is because how your savings are arranged and how the colleges view your savings can cost you in lost financial aid money. And I use the example that if you have $10,000 in savings, that could cost you $500 to $2,500 in college aid each year. So that $10,000 that you worked so hard to save, you take $2,500 and you multiply by 4, you're wiped out. So one of the things that you need to do, and this is absolutely essential, is you need to know what the rules are and what you're doing before you play the game. Then there are loans. There are several different ways to borrow the money for college. If you can make a mental note of where you sit right now, I would say that roughly 10% of all of the people have all the money readily set aside in a separate account dedicated for their child's college education. I would say that 30 to 40% of them have something set aside for college. What that means is 90% of the people are going to have to borrow something from somewhere. Like I said, there are several different ways to borrow it. But if you're going to borrow money, and some of these are stupid questions, but I've got to ask them. Would you rather get a tax deduction or not get one? Get a tax deduction, exactly. Now, again, if Uncle Sam is willing to help out in the cost of college, don't you want to take him up on it? Especially since all the other things he's throwing our way. Would you rather have a fixed monthly payment or a variable increasing payment? Fixed, right? Here's the thing, that's a stupid question. But a lot of people end up taking out these loans that just keep ballooning and ballooning and ballooning. It's kind of like the adjustable rate mortgages. You know, they started out at one rate, and next thing you know, next month you open up your statement and you're like, oh my God, I can't pay my mortgage because my interest rate just jumped up 2%. Same thing with student loans. People get in real trouble with those kind of college loans. Would you rather have an interest-free student loan or a high-interest student loan? Free. Free, of course. That's probably the dumbest question I'll ask. But again, a lot of people end up taking out these high-interest student loans. Just out of curiosity, does anybody know what the rate for like the Parent Plus student loans are these days? 6%? 8 to 12%. I just checked because I'm trying to work with the student to reorganize and refinance. Yes. The problem is that a lot of people don't know how to get the interest-free student loans, so they end up taking out the high-interest ones. That's one thing that we'll definitely talk about. But the biggest problem is that you have families that take a loan each and every semester. So the question I ask is, would you rather have to take a loan each and every semester or have the funds readily available prior to college beginning? Prior to college, right? Because then, you know, then what happens is you have this situation that's called, I call it 4.5 years same as cash. Let's say you have the money sitting over here ready to pay for college, but you can get an interest-free, no-payment student loan over here that you don't have to pay back until 6 months after the child graduates. It may be better to keep this liquid over here, let it grow, take the student loan, and then pay it off in the grace period. So you basically got 4.5 years to let something else grow. Does that make sense? So that's one of the things that we're going to talk about today as well, this morning. I do these seminars at night too, so sometimes I get confused. Then there are scholarships. Oh, this is a coffee card opportunity. So, does anyone know what percentage of the $245 billion available in student aid came in the form of private scholarships? Now these are sort of outside the schools. These are just private scholarships. Whoever gets closest gets either a coffee bean or a Starbucks card. Take a guess?
20.
20. Okay. Anybody else?
15.
15. Back? 60. 60. Okay. Optimistic? Huh? 30.
35.
35.
5.
5. Okay.
80.
80.
90.
90.
40.
40. Yes, sir. That. 4. Okay.
35.
35. Oh my God, I really want this. Okay. So, who said 4? You did, sir. Coffee bean or Starbucks?
Your choice.
Starbucks. It's actually 2%.
Wow.
2% of that money came in the form of private scholarships. So here's the deal, is that so many people run around chasing this money. They, you know, it's like, you know, they do have bizarre scholarships. You know, if you're left-handed, if you have a heart murmur, if your second cousin is a Cherokee Indian. But they're like $200, $500, $1,000 when you have a bill of $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 coming at you. So write down this website, www.fastweb.com. This is a great website because it is a scholarship search website. In fact, I would suggest that your child or your student should write this down and register. They fill out their criteria, they fill out their profile, and what it does is if there is a scholarship that is right for them, the website will alert them of it. There's also another site that I just found. I'm just going to write it on the board over here. This is a great one. This website is really good for all sorts of educational stuff. Chegg.com, but they also have a scholarship search that you can put in criteria. I got an invitation to apply for a scholarship the other day through a tweet. If I had the best tweet, I would get $500. I'm sure your teenagers can come up with great tweets. So it's another good resource. But the key is that you shouldn't be spending a lot of time on this. because as I said, it's only 2% of the money. There are 3 places that you should be spending your time in this process, and that's what we're going to go over today, but this is definitely not one of them. You can go to a cheaper school or skip college altogether. Don't agree with it, and we're going to talk about in a second why we don't agree with going to a cheaper school. So you'll see that. So let's talk about the truth about financial aid and some myths. So how did they being the federal government and the schools, determine if I'm eligible? A lot of people say, I make too much money. I'm never going to qualify for financial aid. Well, that may be the case. But we do see families that make between $150,000 and $200,000 of W-2 income that still qualify for some need-based aid. It all depends on how they're positioned, how the student is positioned, what schools they're looking at, but you can still make a pretty nice income and still qualify for some need-based aid. My child is not a great student. Well, hopefully they are great students. No, but here's the deal, is that the financial aid award offer goes out purely if you're accepted. If you're accepted and you fill out the paperwork, you will get an offer. However, having said that, many of the college's dollars go to the upper echelon schools. I want you to start thinking of college as a business, a big business. Perhaps the biggest business in the country, biggest nonprofit business in the country. How do top businesses attract talent? Money. They pay them. Benefits. They offer them things. How do schools attract top students? Scholarships and financial aid award offers. So, while you don't have to be a great student to get an award offer, being a great student will help you so much more in getting better and higher award offers, and we'll talk about that as well. I own a home. A lot of schools don't assess equity in your house. And the ones that do, if you position yourself correctly ahead of time, they're not going to count it against you. It's a quick and simple process. Anybody been through this before? Is easy the first 4-letter word you would think of? Is that why you're here? It's not easy. It's a pain in the butt. You have many forms to fill out. It's overwhelming. If you make a mistake, we'll talk about mistakes later. But here's the worst part. There is no scorecard at the end. There is nobody telling you, hey, you're paying $20,000. Guess what? You could have paid $10,000. Sucks to be you. Nobody's telling you that. Or they're saying, hey, you got into this school, but you could have gotten into this school. There is no scorecard. And there is no universal, it's not, I make the analogy later on that kind of what I do is akin to a CPA for college funding and financing or college planning. But with CPAs have the tax code. You can go look it up and you can say, okay, there's the rule. With this, there are no rules, there is no scorecard, there is no universal metric. So you don't know if you've done it right or not. And that's part of the problem as well. And then the schools will help. So there's 2 parts to this. First of all, a lot of people will start with their high schools and their high school guidance counselors. And high school guidance counselors are great in terms of helping select schools and helping look over things until they get overwhelmed around the middle of October and they have to look over 300 kids' essays and write recommendations for every single one. The second thing too is that their expertise is not on the financial side. They can tell you what numbers to put in what boxes on the FAFSA. Heck, the FAFSA can tell you that, it's directions. But they can't tell you how it's going to affect your overall financial aid picture. And if you could have done something ahead of time to change it. And the other thing too is that a lot of times people will assume, because we live in Los Angeles, because we live in, you know, nicer areas, that, oh, no problem, they can pay for college, easy peasy. And what we find is that's absolutely not true at all. It does not matter. It is a huge amount of money, and it is a huge burden on families. So that's the thing. And then second thing is the college aid officers will help. A lot of people will go to their college financial aid officer before they're even accepted and say, hey, you know, what can you give me? Here's all my financial information. Now I ask you a question. Do you do that with the IRS? No. Well, actually there was one little lady who said she did because she was guaranteed never to get audited. But you don't do that. You know, you use a CPA, you use TurboTax, you protect yourself, and then you give them the information. It's the same thing with the colleges. Remember, I told you, colleges are big businesses. They are there to give you the least amount of money possible to get your student to enroll in the school. I'll talk about that more in a little bit. But think of it this way. They did not build those multi-million or billion-dollar endowments off of giving you more financial aid. They just didn't. You know, again, think of it like a business. Does a business unnecessarily spend money? No. So if they have any justification not to give you money, are they going to use it? Yes. So their job, once again, is to get the students that they want to go to their colleges, to get them to go there, and then give them the least possible to go. So you've got to remember what your up against is. A lot of people romanticize colleges. Oh, it's everybody's this nonprofit. It's this fabulous. When it comes to financial aid, they're businesses, and you must remember that. So they want you to go there, but they don't want you to give the maximum amount of money. Now, like I said before, there's $245 billion of total financial aid and tax relief available, which is great. The other good thing is that there is more money being paid for financial aid out of students' or parents' pockets. Okay, so that's encouraging, but this is what I call the $64,000 question. How does my family get their fair share of aid? So this is really, really important. I want you to write it down, and I'm going to do some calculations on the board. So the first thing you have is the cost of attendance, or COA. Those of you, when you start looking into more, you get into the nitty-gritty of the application phase, everything is acronyms. So, COA, that's tuition, room and board, books, computer expenses. Some schools will throw in travel expenses. It's everything that it costs for 1 year of a college education at that particular school. The next thing you have is the expected family contribution, or the EFC. Now, the EFC is the number that the federal government comes up with when you put your information into their forms. It is largely made up of income and assets, how many kids you have in the family. There are over 100 components to that number. It's always more than you want it to be, but here's how it works. The cost of attendance minus the expected family contribution is what's called your family need. Now, your family need is how much aid you're eligible for. So, let's talk about this a second. Remember when I said the first place you should be spending your time, actually I didn't say that, but number one, the first place you should be spending your time in this process is making this EFC number as low as it legally can be. So, let me write this, let me draw this out for you. So, let's say, okay. So let's say your EFC is $20,000. Can everyone see this, or should I use a different color?
Different color, please.
Ah, this is nice. Okay, so your EFC is $20,000. This is a universal number. It's going to apply to every single college that you apply to. Let's say at our college, it's going to be, the cost of attendance is $30,000. Okay? Does that make sense? I subtract these two numbers, and I get $10,000, and this is what's called my family need. So that means when the schools are looking for financial aid packages, they're going to award you up to $10,000 in need-based aid. This EFC you're going to be paying no matter what you do. Make sense? Now, what if there was a way that instead of having a $20,000 EFC,
you had a $10,000 EFC. We still have the same $30,000 cost of attendance, but now our family need has jumped up to $20,000. So now you're eligible for up to $20,000 of need-based financial aid. That's a difference of $10,000 per year. Over 4 years, that's $40,000 that you don't have to pay. Does that make sense? So the first place that you want to be spending your time is there any strategies or anything I can do and take advantage of to legally lower my EFC? Now, actually, no, I'm going to erase this really quickly. There are 3 categories of people that need proper college funding. So, category 1. Category 1 families are families with total financial need. Based on their income or assets, they're going to get financial aid wherever they go to school. However, everything must be done 100% accurately and on time to get the maximum amount of free money and the least amount of loans. Now we have category 2 families, and these are the majority of the people that we typically see in these workshops. And these are families that, depending on what schools they pick, depending on how they're positioned, depending on how their student is positioned, they're either going to get a lot of aid, some aid, or next to nothing. And this is the majority of the people that we usually see. Now we have category 3. And these are the families that make too much money, that they're just not going to get need-based aid. That's just, their EFC is just going to be $50,000, $60,000, $70,000. It's just the way it goes. However, they still have to go through the exact same process to get the merit-based money. A lot of schools will not give out merit scholarships unless you go through the process of filling out all these darn forms. Now, the second thing that you want to be concerned with, especially category 2 and category 3 families, is how they pay for college, and paying for college in the most cost and tax efficient fashion. Because if you could save $4,000 a year in taxes by how you pay for college, that's no different than getting an additional $4,000 in aid. It's all money coming back to your pocket. Not only that, how you pay for college is so imperative. Here's why. It's after-tax money. So I'm going to use the example here. Let's say you're looking for a school that costs $70,000 for the education, and you're in the 30% tax bracket. I'm doing 25% income and 5% state and local tax. You would have to earn $100,000 just to pay the $70,000 to send your child to college. So if it's $70,000 isn't enough, as I said before, this is after-tax money. Now, let's take that money and let's say you invested it instead. And let's say you got a 6% rate of return. You add 15 years and 6% rate of return on that $70,000. It's $167,760. If you're in a higher tax bracket and you're looking at an elite school, you know, one of these 50, 60,000ers, $1,148,700 that you will never see again. This is an insane amount of money. And so here's the thing, as I talked about before, number 1 is getting your EFC as low as it legally can be. Number 2, and this is imperative, is coming up with a plan right now so that you can afford to pay your college costs in the least painful out-of-pocket fashion as possible, and coming up with a plan so it doesn't bankrupt you down the road. So let me repeat. Number one, keeping the family contribution as low as it possibly can be. And number two is coming up with a plan right now on how you're going to pay for whatever it is that you don't get in the form of aid. So those are two of the three. And I'll touch on the third in just a minute. Now there are four main sources of college aid. There is the federal government, who typically gives Pell Grants and other types of grants to Category 1 families. These are lower income families. There's also a work-study program. Does anybody know about work-study? Have kids in college? Or did work-study? I did work-study.
Oh,
Yeah, work-study is a great program. So let's say your child gets a job at Starbucks. Let's say they have a summer job at Starbucks. They're a barista. They're doing fabulously. Well, at the end of the year, they get a W-2 from Starbucks. And let's say they earn $5,000. Well, guess what? Your college costs are going to go up because the colleges count student income against them very, very heavily. So that $5,000 that your child works so hard to earn, you can just say bye-bye, it's going to go to college. But let's say they did work study. A couple of different things would happen. First of all, that money they earned in work study would not count against him or her in the financial aid formulas. The second good thing about these jobs is these are jobs with nothing to do. You check people in, you check the freshmen in a class, you answer the phones in the English department, and the rest of the time, and the phone rings twice a week, and the rest of the time you sit there and you do your homework. That's what I did. I assisted a professor, I checked in the kids, and then I sat in the back and I did my homework for a 2-hour lecture. So basically you're getting paid to do homework. And then the third good thing about them is, let's say you go to USC and you're a business major. And let's say you work in the finance department. Well, guess what? A lot of these professors are adjuncts. They come in, they teach one class, they'll leave. They do it because they like it, they do it for the prestige, but they're not full-time professors. And you get to meet every single one of them. So when it comes time to look for a job and to network, you are that much above everybody else because you've had that job. So these are great things to have. Then you have Stafford and Perkins loans. And these are pretty much the only loans that the child can take out without you guys co-signing. A lot of times people think that there's these magical student loans out there that are like a 1%, you have 40 years to pay them back. It just doesn't happen anymore. The Staffords and Perkins loans do have a limit that they will let the child take out. It's like a lifetime limit of $27,000 over 4 years. Now, after the Stafford and Perkins loans, pretty much any loan that you get on top of that, you are going to have to co-sign for. So, if your child decides that college isn't for them, or they drop out, or any of many other things, or they can't get a job afterwards, after college and they're back living in your basement, which I'm sure we don't want to happen, it's your loan, and you are responsible for it. And so you have to be really careful with these. And then there are loans that are called the Parent Plus loans. And you'll start to see these as you guys start doing your applications. You'll get bombarded with these in the mail. They'll say, here's this Parent Plus loan. It's only $200 for the semester for what you need. Well, here's the problem. If you don't have a plan in place before you take out the Parent Plus loan, is that that's only for one semester. And then the next semester there's another 200, and another 200, and another 200. And next thing you know, these payments are ballooning out of control. Furthermore, these are 10-year loans. There are hefty fees involved. There are high interest rates. Right now they're currently at 8 to 12%. And the other thing too is a lot of colleges try to position them in their financial aid packages and make it look like it's financial aid. So you get a letter saying, hey, look, you can take out a $30,000 Parent Plus loan, and it says financial aid award. Guess what? That's not an award, that's a loan. So you have to be really, really careful with these. Then there's the state government. Then you have the colleges and universities. And the colleges and universities themselves, that is where the bulk of the money you will ever get in this process will come from. What you will see on your financial aid award letters, it'll say like University of San Diego Institutional Grant. So that's the third place you should be spending your time. Which is finding the right school, which is the right fit for your student and the right fit for you financially, and positioning your student so you have the best application possible, because that's where the bulk of the financial aid dollars are going to come from. It's not going to come from the federal government. It's not going to come from the state. It's going to come from the colleges themselves. So that's the third place you should be spending their time. And then there's private sources, the private scholarships, blah, blah, blah. So I wouldn't spend your time really looking for that. But again, your student can do that. That's a great thing for them to do. So where do we begin? Get to know the FAFSA form. I can't even say it. Free application for federal student aid. Now, here's the thing. A very large percentage of these forms are submitted with errors or inconsistencies each year. And you have to fill out the form to get aid. It has to be done fully and correctly. And if it's submitted incorrectly, it gets pushed back by 4 to 6 weeks, which results in lost financial aid. The reason why is financial aid is first come, first served. The people who get their forms in first get the first aid dollars. If your form gets pushed back to the end, you could lose out on aid dollars because they're all gone. January 1st of your child's senior year, it's like a gun goes off for anyone who knows this process. Why? It's because that's the first day that the FAFSA is released. So, this is what a lot of people do. They say, well, I can't fill out the FAFSA because I don't have my taxes done. And I don't have my taxes done, so I can't fill out this FAFSA. Well, I have to wait until I get my taxes done, and then next thing you know, it's April 15th, and they have yet to file their taxes, and they have yet to fill out the FAFSA. That is the absolute worst thing you can do. The priority deadline for the FAFSA is February 15th. You do not have to have your taxes done by that time. You can estimate the numbers on the FAFSA. You can take your W-2s, take your assets, and you can send in an estimate. If you get it in by February 15th, you will be ahead of 90% of the people. Okay? Then what happens is after you're accepted, the schools will send you an award offer, and it will be a conditional award offer. They'll say, this is not final. We need your updated tax information, and when we get it, we may update your financial aid award offer. However, they've already allocated money to you, and it's going to be hard for them to take it away once they've given it to you. There's one change that I'm going to add because this is new for this year. There's a lot of the higher top schools are not releasing financial aid award letters until they see your tax returns. So, if you have a junior, get your taxes done as soon as you possibly can. Because what happens is they won't give you a final offer. They won't give you any offer until they see the tax return. So that's kind of a new thing that's been popping up. But regardless, get everything in early. Because, as I said before, it's first come, first served. You can do everything right, but if you wait till the end, there may not be any money left, and there's nothing you can do. Now, when I say priority deadline, February 5th and January 5th are the same thing. It's just as long as it's in before that February 15th deadline. Now we have what's called the CSS profile form. So, the CSS profile form is an additional form that many of the private schools will ask you to fill out. It asks more detailed information. It asks about home equity. It asks for more details on income and assets. Expenses, it will ask about medical expenses. If you own a business, it will ask about that. It has to be consistent with the FAFSA, and this form is really, really complex. It also, you have to pay a registration fee, and you have to pay a fee to every school you want it sent to. Okay, then there are institutional forms. This is where the colleges themselves, they have their own questions that they want to ask you because it's their money on the line. And once again, it has to match up. It has to be 100% consistent with the other forms, it has to match up with the profile, and it has to match up with the FAFSA. So when we talk about mistakes, I mentioned that a lot of the forms are filled out with mistakes. It doesn't even necessarily have to be a mistake. It can be an inconsistency that will get it pushed back to you. Now, if you own a business or a farm, if you're divorced or separated, there are additional forms for that. Oh, another coffee cart opportunity. So, let's say parents are divorced. Child lives with mom, who is remarried, and we also have a biological dad who's not remarried. Whose information goes on the FAFSA? Mom's. Mom and new husband. Oh my gosh, you guys are two. Who said it first? Okay, I might have to think of a different question since everybody got that one right. Okay, I'm going to think of one more so we can get different answers. Exactly right. Mom and biological dad goes on the forms. Because here's the thing.
And biological dad?
I mean, mom and stepdad, if they're married. Mom and stepdad, if they're married. If they're not married, it's only mom. Biological dad does not go on the forms. So, because here's what happens if you put all three down. Incomes go up, assets go up, financial aid goes down. Does that make sense? So, you know, if it's a 50-50 split, well, you know, it doesn't matter what the custody agreement says. It does not matter who takes the child as a tax deduction. It's simply where does the child spend 60% of the time. Now, some schools ask more detailed questions, and some schools will ask about the non-custodial parent, but that's how the FAFSA works. So, if you're thinking about getting a divorce, now is really a good time.
They don't like married.
I'm just kidding. Okay, not all colleges are created equal. Now, this is something that's really, really important as well. I want you to write it down. This phrase, percentage of need met. Now, what does that mean? Remember when we talked about that number, that family need number? Some schools will meet 100% of that number. Other schools may meet 50% or 30% or 75%. So you've got to know what percentage of aid they give, how much is free money, meaning scholarships and grants, and how much is loans. How much is work study, stuff like that. And you have to know these statistics before you apply. Because if you don't, you're going to get a big shock when the financial aid award offer comes back. So, when you come in for that free consultation, bring a couple of schools with you because we have proprietary software that I can actually run the numbers. I can see what you'd be looking at those particular schools and what you'd be looking to pay. So it's like basically, hey, if you have these scores and this is your, this is kind of generally where you are in terms of income and assets, this is what you can generally expect to pay. Now, it is imperative to know this, as I mentioned before, because if you don't know it prior to applying, you could end up getting in somewhere, your child all of a sudden has her heart set on the school, it's the dream school, blah, 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 blah. The award offer comes back, and you're looking at a $50,000 a year bill, which, by the way, is all the calls that I'm getting in my office the past couple of weeks. Unfortunately, I can't help them. It's too late in the process. They've already gone through it, which is why I'm so glad you guys are here today. So, here's an example that I want to talk about. Remember when I said before we don't necessarily agree with going to a cheaper school? Here's why. So let's look at a case study. This is an example of the Jones family, not the real name. They are a client of ours through the College Planning Network. They were looking at Northwestern and Kent State. Now, if you look at the cost, this is a little bit, this slide is a little bit old. Northwestern is now up to about $60,000, but cost at Northwestern, $45,000. Cost at Kent State, $16,000. You just looked at it, you're like, well, duh, Kent State, it's way cheaper than Northwestern. Well, here's where it gets interesting. So, their EFC, this family's EFC is 7878. It's a universal number. It applies to every single college. So their need at Northwestern is $37,000, and their need at Kent State is about $8,600. Northwestern meets 100% of need. And they meet it through a combination of gift aid, which is free money, of 76%, and self-help, which is 24%. Now that self-help is usually a combination of work study and the loans that the students can take out in their own names, the Perkins, the Staffords, and things like that. What does that mean? That means that that family, if they decided to go to Northwestern, their out-of-pocket would be $78.78. Now let's look at Kent State. So Kent State only meets 55% of need. So they are about $4,000 short. So they're $39.14 short. So what happens is this number gets added to the EFC. So you add these two numbers together, which means the parent's out of pocket to go to Kent State is almost $12,000. So you're paying $12,000 to go to a $16,000 school versus, what's my number? $78.78 to go to a $45,000 school. I do not know why this happens. Well, actually I do. Northwestern has a huge endowment. Kent State is a state school that does not. Northwestern is very hard to get into. Kent State is a little bit easier to get into. But then again, we see this day in and day out where these really expensive private schools that meet 100% of need, if your child can get in. Remember I talked about student positioning and all that other stuff? You're going to be paying a heck of a lot less to go to college. So, let's review one more time. Part 1, EFC as low as possible. Part 2, plan. Plan to pay for whatever cost you're going to pay. Part 3, pick the right school that's going to give you the best award offer, the most free money, the less loans, and I kind of look at it, it's like this interlocking machine that you do the planning part, you do the financial aid part right, you do the student positioning part right, so up, your financial pain is going to go way down. You do any one of those things wrong, the whole thing falls apart. So, now, how to get colleges to increase your award offer. This is kind of a little known secret. Now, colleges a lot of times will misaward or under-award aid packages. Why do they do it? Well, you know, they claim it would just so happen that way. I'm a little bit more cynical. Again, why do colleges charge huge tuitions? Because they can. Why do they misaward or under-award financial aid offers? Because they can. Because they don't think you're going to fight it. And again, they also want to compete with other schools. So let me ask you a question. If you don't know what the school's history is, and you don't know what you should have gotten or could have gotten, how do you know if you've received a fair offer or not? It comes down to what is called financial aid leveraging. And this is from Money Magazine, which basically means it's a term that 65% of private schools and 27% of public schools engage in what's called financial aid leveraging. This means they determine how little aid needs to be awarded here to a particular student to still get that student to enroll. But pull out that Vanderbilt letter, the Vanderbilt award offer. Now, the numbers are a little bit hard to read, so I'll kind of go through them. There's a before and after letter. Before, this was an actual family that went through our services at the College Planning Network. We have a full financial aid team and we have a full appeals team to work on this stuff. We got around $30,000 in need-based financial aid. It looks like $32,000. Now, we came back and the appeals team and the family originally went, oh great, we got $32,000, woohoo! Well, we took a look at it. And we have a huge database of information. We know what the schools tend to award. Why? Because they have to report it to the IRS every year, and we're able to get our hands on that. We're also able to spreadsheet it. We realized that this family had been under-awarded, so we appealed it. And in this case, the appeal came back, and they got an extra $22,000 in need-based financial aid for 1 year. You know, you take that over 4 years, that's almost $100,000 that family didn't have to pay to go to college. Now, that is a big offer. The average appeal is about $4,800 a year. It's actually $4,809. But over 4 years, that's almost $20,000 that you don't have to pay. So again, it's better that you're awarded fairly and you don't have to go through this stuff. But again, if you have to, you want to be able to make certain that you're awarded fairly and that you're going to contact them in language that they'll understand. Because here's the deal. Everybody is saying, I have no money, my spouse lost their job, I lost money in the stock market crash, my home value went down. So you've got to talk to them in a way that they will understand and that they will listen to you and give you more money. Now there are many, we did that already, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so there are many financial aid legal, I hesitate to use the word loopholes, but loopholes. It's perfectly ethical and legal to make use of the rules that allow you to get more money. Again, it's no different than CPAs and tax strategies. It's just that most people don't go through the financial aid process every year, so they don't know that there are these strategies. Whereas people have to do their taxes every year, or they have a CPA do that. That's the whole thing, is that you may get thousands more just by knowing the rules that they don't want you to discover. And here's the key, they don't want you to know. You know why? Because if you know, who gets less money? They do. You know who else gets less money? The student loan industry. All the big banks are doing student loans these days. They're not doing it for their health. So here's an example of two families. They're identical on paper. They both have an income of $80,000. They both have assets, liquid assets, of $60,000. This is excluding their home equity. They both have $100,000 of accessible home equity. They both have 4 people in the family, and they both have 1 child in college. One family took the time to learn the rules and and understand the process, and their EFC ended up being $16,443, this family B. Family A did not do that, and their EFC was $28,000. Again, that's a difference of over $12,000 a year, just by taking the time to learn what the rules are, how they apply to you, and how you can utilize them. Now we have 529 plans. Anyone have 529 plans in here? Okay, a few of you. Okay. So for a while, actually the 529s are kind of on the upswing again. For a while, up until about 2008, they were the greatest thing since sliced bread. From 2008 to about 2010, nobody wanted them, and now they're kind of going up again. But here's the thing, is that they are a great vehicle for saving money for college. You get tax benefits you don't have to pay taxes on the gains if you use the money for qualified educational expenses. If the market's going up, if we're having a great market run right now, it's great. Here's the thing that you want to know, is how do they affect financial aid? So here's the real issue with 529 plans. It's a great strategy when it comes to qualifying for federal aid. They're no different than any other parent asset or student asset whose ever name it's in. But when the colleges distribute their own aid, they can do whatever they want. So let's say you're the financial aid officer at, I don't know, USC, and you see that Susie Smith has $50,000 in a 529. Are you going to count that as a resource of the family, or are you just going to kind of ignore it? You know what the money is there for. You know it has to be used on qualified educational expenses. You can count it as an asset of the parent if you want, or you can count it as an asset of the student. And guess what? Student assets get assessed at a lot higher. You can count it as income. They can do whatever they want with it. Each school has their own institutional formula. So the problem is that they see the money, they know it's there. The other thing too about 529s is if you have more than 1 child, you have to put the total sum of all 529 accounts. Even though, I know, I called them and asked. Even though you're only applying to school for 1 child. The reason why they make you do that is because 529s are easily transferable. You could transfer one to another like that. So they make you put the total amount. So let's say you have 3 kids with $20,000 each. Well, you have to put $60,000 on the forms. And again, they see it and they know what it's there for. It's not fair, but that's how they do it. Now, let's say some people try to get around this by having the grandparents do the 529. Grandma and grandpa will do the 529 for them. Here's the problem. On the CSS profile, it asks, do you have money held in a 529 account by somebody that's not your parents? Not only that, then they ask, how much will be withdrawn to pay for college?
Oh boy.
And then guess what they do? They say, oh, you know what? Little Susie Smith got $50,000 from her grandmother's 529. Looks like she had a lot of income. No financial aid for her next year. So here's the thing. It's not to say that 529s are bad. They may be perfect for you. They may be great for you. But then what you want to do is you want to have a competent advisor, somebody who knows about financial aid, examine it before you apply for aid and go through the process. And one of the problems that we see a lot of is financial advisors, you know, Ameriprise or Smith Barney or any of the other stuff, they say, well, go ahead, start your 529 and fund it, but they have no idea how it affects the financial aid. So what happens is you come to apply for financial aid and you get hit hard on the back end. And it's not their fault. This isn't their job. Just like the high school guidance counselor, is it not their job to advise you on the financial aid side of it? Same thing with the financial planners. So again, are they right for you? They might be. They might be great. I have some clients and I'm like, go fund that baby, fund it full, you know, put the maximum amount you can, and go for it. Other ones, you know, it might be worth, you know, cashing in. Some you might want to use the first year. Some you might want to use the last year. Some you might want to use evenly throughout. There's a whole bunch of strategies that you can use with 529 plans, but you want to make certain that you know what the rules are and how it's going to affect you. Now there are all these educational laws and amendments that have been passed. We call them the Full Employment Opportunity Act for CPAs, lawyers, and financial planners. Why? Because it keeps everyone busy trying to understand the laws. And you have to understand how these complicated laws and tax regulations will impact the college funding process. So, questions are, will taking advantage of one of these current tax provisions actually cost you by reducing the amount of aid you would otherwise qualify for? Because guess what? They ask you if you took it. They also will see your tax return. You have to show them your tax return in order to get financial aid. Should you elect the American Opportunity Tax Credit? Or do you make too much money for it? Should you refinance your house to pay for college? It's a lot of question we get all the time. What are the restrictions on IRAs used for college expenses? I'll throw out another one. If you take a distribution from your 401k or your IRA, how does that affect your financial aid? These are just some of the questions. There's a lot more, but you have to know how every single one of these variables is going to affect you. How do you not become a casualty of the current college tax laws and regulations? You want to start your financial planning now, and tax planning. Again, as I mentioned before, some of the schools won't even give you a financial aid award offer until they see your tax returns. So whoever's doing your taxes, you want to make them aware that you are doing college financial planning as well, so that everyone is on the same page and you're working together. And then the other thing too, is, again, make sure you talk to an expert so you're not getting yourself into trouble unknowingly. If you choose to have someone help you, make sure that you ask them these questions. Can you show me how to lower my EFC and maximize my eligibility for aid? Can you help me pick schools that will give me the best aid package, meet the most need, most free money, less loans, etc.? Can you help me fill out the FAFSA and CSS profile forms line by line? Will you help me negotiate if I get a bad package or less than I expected from each school? And can you show me how to pay for college on a tax-favored basis if I don't qualify for financial aid? Because here's the deal. Some of you are not going to get need-based aid. That's just the reality of the situation. College planning is not just about need-based aid. There are many other planning strategies available that are out there to significantly reduce your out-of-pocket costs. Cash flow strategies, merit-based aid strategies, student positioning strategies, appeal strategies. There's many, many more things available to you. The goal in here is to pay the least amount for college. So even if you don't qualify for need-based aid, don't get discouraged because there are other ways that you could pay less for college. So what are your options? Well, you can do it yourself. Colleges will love you for it. You can let your accountant do it for you. We have a lot of CPAs as clients, and I work with a lot of, I have a couple CPAs that are, I call them my strategic partners. And they're the first ones to say, hey, this is not what we do for a living. Our specialty is the tax code and saving you money on taxes. Now, you can work with something that's called a college funding consultant, which is what I am. We call it a specialist in a very important niche. Again, I'd love for all of you guys to come and talk to me, but that's, you know, talk to somebody. Because there are things out there that you need to know so that you pay less for college or so that you don't overpay for college. I think Paying for college is kind of like flying on an airplane. You get on an airplane and you look around you and you know that every single person's paid a different price. That person's flying on miles, that one got a full price ticket because their work paid for them and they had to get it at the last minute. This guy got a discount ticket, this one went to Expedia. Point is, everyone's going from A to B. They're all going the same place, but they all paid a different amount to get there. It's the same thing with colleges. You don't ever want to look at the sticker price for a college because every single person is paying something different. So the other thing too is you kind of want to, around this time what starts happening is going, oh my gosh, I'm never going to qualify for financial aid, or little, Jimmy over here got a full ride and his parents own 3 houses. How the heck did that happen? Or, I didn't qualify for anything. This process sucks. You want to take everything that somebody says to you with a grain of salt, because like the airplane, it's an individual, it's really an individual thing. So again, I'd love for you to come talk to me, but if you don't talk to me, please talk to somebody. So if you decide to talk to somebody, what do you want to ask? You want to ask, what exactly will they do for you? Will they do income and asset planning? Will they help you pick the best schools for you? Not just the best schools for you. Not everybody is cut out to go to Harvard. Guess what, and I like it that way. Will they fill out forms? Will they help you fill out the forms for you? Will they help you negotiate with the schools? Do they offer any guarantees? And do you think their guarantee is fair? When should you start planning? We always say you should have started planning 17, 18 years ago when you got the test results. We're a little late on that. Second best time is now, and I'll tell you why. January 1st of your child's junior year until December 31st of their senior year is what's called your base income year. That year, you will be under the financial microscope of the colleges. They will scrutinize and ask you about every single move that you make in that year. Okay? So ideally, the best time to start the financial funding process is when your child is a freshman or a sophomore.
Too late now.
However, there are still things we can do.
I got 2 that are okay, but the junior is not doing so good.
Well, guess what? You got to do this every single year.
So you're pro by the last one.
Yeah. Here's the thing. If you're a junior, there's still things we can do. If you're a senior, there's still things we can do. If you're already in college, I have students that come to me after a freshman year in college where they've gotten killed on financial aid, and we've been able to help them for the rest of the 3 years of college. Because that's the thing. You get to apply for financial aid all 4 years of college, and things change. So, again, while earlier is better, it's never too late to start planning. The key is you've got to do it now. So this is our mission for our clients. 3 things. We want to eliminate the administrative nightmare, which littered with countless opportunities for errors, causing families to lose some or all of their financial aid. Number 1, eliminate the administrative nightmare, which is littered with countless opportunities for errors, causing families to lose some or all of their financial aid. Number 2, integrate sound financial planning strategies with the financial aid rules and regulations. The point here is to have you keep your money. Number 3, implement college admissions and financial aid strategies that help children attend their dream schools and make paying for it more easily affordable. So, here's the deal. We can't do this for everybody. The ones we can help, we can make a massive impact on their situation. The reason we can't help everyone is because some people, there's just not much you can do. And the ones we can help, we can really, really help. So we're very selective with who we work with. And here's another reason why we're very selective. We have a 100% money-back guarantee for any fees that you pay us. The reason being is because I like happy clients. I like clients that rave about my services. I am not going to take somebody on if I can't help them. And furthermore, if I think I can help you initially, and I find out that I can't within a couple, if we start working together and I find out that it's just not going to work out, I will refund your money, like I did with a family last week. Because it turned out the situation that we started in and where we ended up, there really wasn't enough. I couldn't do enough for them. And so I gave them their money back. So we have 100% money back guarantee for fees that you pay us. My partner company, the College Planning Network, we have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. We don't take someone on if we can't really help them. Now, so this is part, continuing guarantee. So this is what we will do. Do income and asset planning recommendations to reduce your EFC as much as possible. We will help you pick the schools that give the best financial aid packages. We will help you fill out the financial aid forms, or if you'd like, we'll fill it out for you. We'll interview your student and give them access to the most efficient student positioning tools available, such as essay writing, career profiling, college profiling, private student counseling, SAT and ACT prep, chances of admissions reports. Let's see what else we'll do. We will negotiate on your behalf to get the best possible financial aid packages. We will create a personalized plan to pay your family's out-of-pocket expenses in the most cost and tax-efficient way possible. And if we do not do all of this in a professional, timely manner, in your opinion, and you're not satisfied, we will give you your money back. So, if you're interested in knowing what your financial aid package might look like at the schools you're considering before you apply, and if there are any of these strategies that you can take advantage of to help increase the chances of enrollment at your student's dream school and make paying for college more affordable, remember that little yellow sheet? You want to check yes on that yellow sheet, and also the evaluation forms, if you could fill them out, that would be amazing. Anything you liked about the presentation, anything you didn't like. Nate left his gun at home, but he does have a baseball bat. No, I'm just kidding. So there are a couple of restrictions on this free consultation. I want to go over those really quickly because everyone pretty much wants to take advantage of them. So the consultations will be held at my offices, which are at the Howard Hughes Center, very close to here. They must be scheduled within 2 weeks of the workshop date. I'll tell you why, is that I do 2 to 3 workshops a month, and I want to be able to make time for everybody who comes to the workshop to have a free consultation. Number 2 is if you're married, we would like both parents to be present. Reason being, this is a family decision. You can bring your child if you would like, but both parents have to be there so everybody can get the information and make a family decision. I'm flexible. I have lunch hours. I have evening hours. We'll be able to talk about that in a second. And then the third thing is I would like you to schedule it before you leave today. Nate has my schedule in the back. We have slots, dates and times and slots set aside. You can check your calendar and sign up for a slot. Even if it's something that you can't actually make and you're committed to having a consultation, just sign up for one and we'll change it. I also do consultations over the phone or over Skype or FaceTime. So if driving is a problem, I can do the consultation over the phone. The only reason I ask these things, if they're not scheduled today, it's going to be hard once I start having more seminars. My next seminar is in about 2 weeks to get all of you guys in. So when you come in, 1 out of 3 things will happen. First of all, 1, you can get all the information you were looking for so you can do this yourself. And if that is the case, what we'll do is we'll sit and talk for an hour. And I'll answer any questions you may have about the process. And why do I do this? Because I'm really, really nice. Well, I am. But no, I do it for a couple of important reasons. 1 is I want you guys to be as informed as possible. Number 2 is that, again, as I mentioned, we can't help everybody. And when you come in and you see that I'm not trying to push something on you that you don't need, most people appreciate it. However, you may have a friend who would benefit from our services. And parents tend to talk to each other. So aside from being really, really, really nice, which I am, that's why I do it. The second thing is that you may decide that you want us to handle some of it and you can handle some of it. And that's great. We'll do a deal and you'll handle part of it. And the third is that they're going to see that there's a ton that we can do to help you and that you want to kind of hand the whole process off and let us take everything off your plate. And because I know we have some teenagers in the room, and I'm sure you guys are all fabulous children all the time, right? You never talk back to your parents. You always do everything that they ask you immediately. Would that be an accurate statement? Yes or yes? Okay. So here's the thing, parents, when you ask your child to do something, it's nagging. But if somebody else does it, all of a sudden it's coaching. So how many times has this happened is you ask your child, hey, can you do this, that, and the other? And then you get this. And then somebody else, like their soccer coach, asks them to do that. And they're like, oh my gosh, yes, of course, that's such a great idea. You're like, okay, excuse me, I just told you that 5 minutes ago, and you told me, and you gave me this. Anyhow, so it really helps to have sort of an outside third party coaching your child. Now again, that's what will happen. So a little stat about my partner company, the College Planning Network. Their website is www.collegeplanningnet.com. Our average family receives about $19,000 a year in college aid. Our expert appeals team increases the average under-awarded family's financial aid package by $48.09 a year. We've worked with 822 colleges across the country, including every Ivy League school. So I'll leave you with this quote, and then I'll be around. I'm going to play around with the camera, see if I can get it. That's a good quote, huh? A fool with a plan is better than a genius with none. So again, I've never seen anybody get better results by procrastinating and not having a plan than by getting started, taking action, having a plan, and then you can figure out, what the best thing is going forward. And then the other thing, actually, this is a really great quote that I just heard this week. And sometimes, if you're stuck on not knowing where to begin, and it goes like this: the map will appear when the car is in motion. So if you're stuck on how to start, where to start, it's all overwhelming. The key is to just start. So I thank you all for coming very much. I don't know why that just went off, but that's okay. I will be back. I'll be outside, and anybody has any questions, you can ask me them there. You can sign up for the consultations, and you'll be on your way. Thank you.